Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our monthly Xpress webinar refresher series. My name is Blake, and I'm on the account management team. Here today with me is the other account manager on my team who hosts the webinars with me, Hayden. Our team leads these webinars every month. They're designed to provide current and new Xpress users some basic instruction and review. So before we walk you through Xpress today, we do have a couple of housekeeping items to cover. First, please know that the webinar will be recorded and sent to you afterwards. So if you get interrupted for any reason or you'd like to share this with somebody else at your office, you can expect to receive a recording of today's webinar after about 24 hours. Also, you can submit your questions anytime throughout the presentation and may do so using the box under the question section in your GoToWebinar panel. I'll get to those questions at the end of the webinar if we're not catching them as they come through. Finally, if you look in the handout section, you'll see a solution summary document. This just provides a general review of all the services we offer here at Tenstreet. So if you have any questions or interested in learning about any of these, you can reach out to your advisor afterwards or just email us at sales@tenstreet.com and we'll be happy to get what you need. One thing before I turn this back over to Hayden is that we did want to let you know to check out our blog. Keep your eyes posted on your login notices and sign up for future webinars on our events page at tenstreet.com/events. We're passionate about keeping you guys informed about things that are going on, changes in the legal landscape, new free tools that we're rolling out all the time, just things that we can do to help you make your job easier. And so, we put all those out there in front of you, so just keep your eyes open for those things. Or if, you ever have any questions, please just give us a call at 918-998-9358 or email us at account.managers@tenstreet.com. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Hayden. Hayden, all yours.
Awesome. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I also thought I would just check real quick if a couple of you guys could let us know in the chat box that you can hear us and that you can see the Xpress dashboard. That would be great.
I am not showing the dashboard on my side here, Hayden.
What are you seeing, Blake?
I'm seeing it's a waiting screen. It looks like it's waiting for you to start the video.
There we go.
And Hayden, you might adjust the microphone a little bit. We got some feedback that you're coming through a little broken.
Okay.
And we can see the video now as well.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you, Samantha.
All right.
All right, Hayden, take her away.
All right. So, as you've signed in, this is your 3 homepage reports. Up here you have application overview by source. It tells you the sources you've received applications from in the last day, well, I guess the last 24 hours, the last week, and the last month. As you can see, we've had a couple updates as well as some applications that have come in. These reports change about every 15 minutes. Just down here, you've got the application assignments by who they've been assigned to in the last 30 days. As you can see, we just have the one recruiter, Tenstreet webinar. He's been getting a couple, and we have some that are not assigned. This is a great way for you to track where applicants are in your hiring process and who is working their application. So if you see that one person has 15 drivers in ready for background check, you may follow up with them and say, hey, what's the holdup? What's going on? Why are there so many of these folks waiting to hear from us? And then just below that, we have the work list overview by the last month. This shows you where drivers are in the work list. So some of you use work list to break it up by what terminals you're hiring out of. Some of you do it by the driver type. Some of you do it by the truck type. It's just a great way for you to divide your drivers up and to see where they are. Basically a better way to categorize them, probably the best way to phrase that. And so you can see company, driver, owner, operator, lease, purchase. These are all different categories. And then also it shows you what status that they are in. From here, you have your reminders box in the top left. As you can see, we have a reminder here for today. If you click on this leftward facing arrow, it removes your reminders button as well as all the side navigations and allows you just to have a little more room to work within your dashboard. Just below that, we have the quick search feature, and I'm going to show you how that works real quick. If you type in and, Hit enter. We're going to pull up Andy Anderson, our favorite test applicant. So say, for example, you're working in the Tenstreet dashboard looking at reports, and a colleague says, hey, I have a question about this driver that you talked to. You can use this quick search feature to pull him or her up in a separate dashboard, look at whatever you need to look at, answer their question, and then you can close out of this tab and you won't lose your place within the dashboard. I know a lot of you that multitask, you have multiple drivers you're trying to work at once. You could do that this way as well. You may have, we have Andy Anderson that we have, and we also have a Sandy Sanderson, I believe. I don't know, maybe she's Sandy Sanderson. There we go. So you can have multiple drivers, you can have pulled up at once across your tabs and work them one by one if you so choose. It's just kind of a fun way for you guys to be able to choose how you work your drivers. Just below that, you have your recent section. This will show you the last 10 drivers that you've been working. It will show you the last, I believe, 5 reports. Since we are in our webinar demo area, we're not going to have a lot of reports that are getting used. And then also the five most recent tools that you've used. So if you have only used 3, it's only going to show you 3. And then just below that, you have your link section. You can also edit, if you're a primary and have the ability, you can edit users from here. But we're going to show you the phone app. If you click on this, it populates in a separate dashboard. Phone apps are a great way to capture some driver's information. Now, these are not DOT compliant applications, as in they do not have the driver's signature, but they are a great way for you to capture some information about the driver. So for example, if a driver calls in and says, hey, I'm interested in applying for your company, you say, okay, great, let me get a little bit of information about you. You don't want to lose that driver's information from when they call in to when you send them the IntelliApp link to fill out. So for a phone app, the only information that you have to have are first name and last name. All the rest of the information is just additional and good for you to have. So for example, I wanted to make a phone app for myself. I could do Hayden Peters. I'm at 123 Tenstreet in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that's all the information I have to put. I only have to put my name actually, but it's just good to get additional information as well as social, phone number, etc. Provided that I fill out an IntelliApp that has the exact same information as this phone app, the phone app and the IntelliApp will sync up. It looks at name, social, email address, phone numbers, etc. to pair those up. Provided that the information is the same, they will pair up and you won't have multiple applications for that subject floating around in your dashboard work list results. You'll just have them all together in one place. We're going to get out of this. And now we're going to find our drivers. So let's go to work list. And it's going to automatically default to whoever is signed in. So since I'm signed in as Tenstreet Webinar, all of the applicants that have come in recently that are assigned to Tenstreet Webinar are what's going to show up in the work list results. Today, I'm going to change it to all, so you can see all of the test applicants that have come in. From here, let's select Andy. Now let's do Bill Test. Tenstreet Test. Here we go. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that you would have a phone app and an IntelliApp that would pair up. Provided that this right here was a phone app instead of an IntelliApp, if they'd put it a phone app initially, these would pair up. So you kind of see how that functionality works. Within your work list results, this SC is the scoring section. Some of you may have scoring set up. Some of you may not. Scoring is a great way for you to rank drivers to know which ones to work first. It's not a way for you to qualify or disqualify them. To the right of that, we have the date, which is the date the application came in, the applicant's name, first name, last name, or in this order, it's last name, first name, the applicant's state of residence, the source that the application came in. If you have more than one app, it's going to tell you how many apps there are. For this particular applicant, we have 2 IntelliApps on file. And it's also going to give you the status. We'll go over statuses here in just a minute. So from work list results, we're going to go over to what we call the big white box. From here, you can see Tenstreet Test as the applicant's name. If you click on their name in black, just like the quick search feature, it will pull it up in a separate window. You can work this driver, look at whatever you need to, and then exit out. You're not going to lose your place. To the right of that, we also have the screen upward facing arrow. Does the exact same thing. To the right of that is this little white button that if you click, it will turn orange, which signifies that you need to conduct an individualized assessment. Now, a lot of you may not be familiar with individualized assessment, and that's okay because I'm about to read you a very boring legal blurb. Are you familiar with individualized assessment? This was created in reference to legislation that says you cannot just disqualify a subject based on their criminal record, so ban the box legislation. If the applicant answers yes on the FMCSR, MVR, or criminal records page, this button will turn orange, and you will need to conduct an individualized assessment on this subject. So that's if they answer yes on FMCSR, MVR, or the criminal records page. Just below that, you have the Intel app, which is the source the application came in, the date and time the application came in Central Standard Time. You have the driver's home address, city, state, and if you notice, zip code is hyperlinked. If you click on that zip code, it takes you to Google Maps. So I know I talk to clients all the time about this, that if they hire drivers across the country or they hire them at a particular terminals, this is so useful that for them, if they're not sure where a driver is based or where he lives and they're trying to find the nearest terminal for him, this has been a lifesaver for so many of them to say, oh, perfect, this guy lives in Broken Arrow, I can get him to the Tulsa terminal, no problem. Just below that, we have the driver's social, the driver's phone number, primary and cell phone number, as well as the driver's email address. This right here indicates that the driver has driver pulse. When you click on that, you'll notice quite a few different options have come up. This is like a running thread, almost like an iPhone or a smartphone that you would have, that shows you all the things that have been done on this driver. So I can see that 4 days ago, this driver submitted an Intel app, as well as a day ago, this driver submitted an Intel app. If I wanted to send that person a message, you can send them a message through Pulse. You could also use the new dashboard email we've set up. If you have any questions about this, you'll want to email account.managers@tenstreet.com. We are slowly but surely rolling out the dashboard email, so if you don't have it yet, you will in the next couple weeks. And you can also log outgoing phone calls from here, so you can select a quick note that you left a message for the driver. It's going to tell you. You can click Save. You can also view all of your communications history here. We're going to go over communications view here in just a minute as well, which will cover most of the same things. This little blue person right here, if you click on this, it pops up essentially what is a highlight or an overview of the driver. It tells you their type, if they have a TWIC card, any classes, endorsements, equipment size they're used to driving, where they're hiring out of, if they have any Pulse documents they've uploaded that they could share with you. And then down here is a pretty cool thing. It's called the profile matrix. This takes the driver's demographic information, so carrier size they're looking for, route type, and then license class, or maybe the equipment that they're used to, and it pairs it up with what you have listed in active jobs. So it's a great way for you to say, okay, well, he's endorsed for all 3 of the jobs. He checks 2 of the 3 boxes. It's a great, for this one right here, this would be a great fit because he checks off 3 of the boxes and only looks like 1 or 2 for the other ones. So it's just great for you to look at a driver and say, hey, this is kind of interesting. Maybe he needs a certain position that you've got coming up, or maybe you know that you can't hire him right now, but you want to keep him in mind for down the road. Just a great way for you to track those drivers. From here, we'll go to the top right. You've got Hidden from Work List, which we're going to touch on in just a second. Right here, you have the status drop-down. All of these that are in white are what we call processing or regular statuses. These down here that are in pink or red, depending on your web browser, are what we call final statuses. That being said, there is no way to delete an application from your dashboard, but you can use the hide from work list option. You would only ever want to do this if there are no more actionable tasks for this applicant. So maybe he was not qualified, maybe he said some crude things to you on the phone and you're no longer interested, maybe he was termed, what have you. You would then put that driver into a final status and then click hide from work list, and they will no longer appear over here under your work list results. You will, however, still be able to go find them if you do a granular search and search by work list hidden, which we'll cover here shortly. Just below that, we have your work lists, and our Tenstreet test is not currently assigned to a work list, but if I wanted to, I could put them in one of these. Does not currently have a recruiter, but you can see the recruiter drop down here of all the recruiters that we have in Tenstreet Webinar. Processor, a lot of big companies use this. They're generally people that are just getting all the documents, making sure all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted. Some companies have a processor drop down, some don't. Some people don't use them. You should consider it if it fits best for your company. If it doesn't, I wouldn't worry about it. Just below that, we have the Edit Subject Alert. If you click on this, you'll notice that a text box pops up, and you can type in any kind of message about this driver. So how this was described to me when I was training was like sticking a sticky note on the driver's forehead. That means that anybody who looks at this driver's application is going to see this note about the driver. That being said, these notices, like these alerts you can type right here, are internal facing only. Drivers will not see them. So for Tenstreet test, we can say, not a real applicant, please do not call. If we know that this person isn't a real applicant, maybe I want to bold it, maybe I want to underline it so everybody knows. Then I click Save Subject Alert, and as you can see in this gray box, it stays. Just below that, you have what you can see are the two IntelliApp views. We've got one from the 5th, one from the 1st. The one that I am on now is not the preferred app. If you go over here, you'll notice this changes back to preferred app. That means that every time that I come look at this applicant, this is the application that's going to populate, the most recent. If you were so inclined, if you knew you needed to make some updates to the driver, you could also go to Update Info, and this will allow you to update anything on the driver's application. That being said, if you are making changes to the driver's application, you'll want to make sure that you're getting a signature, collecting a signature for the driver that they are okay with your changes, whether that be through Confirmation IA or resending signature requests. From here, you can see this applicant's full IntelliApp and HTML. You see the active job they applied for, little personal information, the company questions that they answered, their licenses, and when they worked, their MVR questions, as well as their vehicle accident reports, any violations that they're willing to admit to, their criminal record questions if available, their signature, and then all of their releases, authorizations, disclosures. All these signatures in HTML form are down here. We'll go back up. From here, you have App View and this blue downward facing arrow. We've got App View, we have our checklists, DQF view, we've got communications view. Not everybody will have all of these views. Some of these are just for our testing environment. So we'll go to communications view. And as we talked about earlier, this is kind of similar to clicking on this. You're going to get all the same stuff, message, email, phone. This is how you can track any outgoing communications and incoming communications from the driver. There, we also have checklists. These are a way for you to check and see you've done everything that you need for an applicant. We just currently have the one test checklist set up, and you can see that we don't have a not qualified reason tag, and we don't have a hire date tag entered, so it's showing he has not passed through the checklist. We also have highlight view, which, as its name implies, you would guess is kind of a highlight of the driver. Give me just
All right.
1 second.
So we've got a couple questions here for us. This question is coming in from Samantha's. How do we get the applicant signature, and where will that be saved for changes?
All right. So to do that, let's go back to App View. Let's go to Process. And let's go to Exchange. So you can see for this driver, this is a perfect example, that we don't currently have a release on file for Big Boy Trucking. So the signature request is still pending. If you wanted to make that request, the signature request, after you make an app update, you can go to Actions, Signature Request, and it will automatically send that signature request off. So we're just waiting for this one at Big Boy Trucking. Was that the question from Samantha Presley, it looks like?
Yes, there was also, yes, that was it. And then also just to add to that was also the option for the auto signature as well. Your automation settings can be set such that if a driver is in a particular status and they have, for example, a new signature required, it will send off a request for those for new employers. And we also have another question here from Sarah. Do we create our own checklists within AppView?
You do not. You can send you can send an email to account.managers@tenstreet.com asking what's required for checklists, and we will help you get those set up. Oh, you do create, yes, from the email we send you, but we're creating them on the back end to clarify.
Yep. We'll go over with you what kind of things that we can put on your checklist, and then once you give us the input on what you want on the checklist, we will build it for you on the back end, send it to you and check whenever it's done, then you can play around with it, make sure it's good to go. With our new interactive checklist, it also gets you around the dashboard a lot easier. A lot of bigger companies are moving towards a system of creating just checklists that they literally will click through and never view the other parts of the dashboard. They just streamline through a series of checklists that take them to the specific screen they need. Yep. And that looks like that's it for the question, so keep on going. Sorry for interrupting you, bud.
Oh, you're totally fine, my friend. All right, let's go back to highlight view real quick. This is just essentially a highlight of the driver. You can see their personal demographic information, any employment history that they have, and then any violations or sins they are willing to own up to when they apply. These will all show up here, and this essentially creates a highlight of that driver. From there, we'll go to notes. Notes are a great way for internal communications and for personal communications to remind yourself. So we don't have any notes for this applicant yet. So if we click on Add Note, you can see here you've got the option to add quick notes, just like we do from the messages. We can type in a note here that says, call Tenstreet. Will not move forward. I can set a next action date. I can set a next action time. For this kind of note, since we're not going to move forward with him, probably wouldn't do that. But say, for example, that Tenstreet test was a driver, and I was trying to call them and say they're on vacation until next week. To call then. So I could set a next action date. I'm going to set it for, what's today, the 6th, the 13th at 2:30. I'm going to call this person back. I can send it a note as a reminder to myself or the two other users on the account. And I can also send it to multiple ones, send it to everybody, or send it to nobody if I'd like. This is a great way for you to set a reminder for someone to call something. It's also a great way for you to document what you've done. So if you just wanted to say call driver and just remind yourself that you called them, you could do that as well and save the note. It's also a good way for you to pass notes back and forth between users within your dashboard. So if you and a processor are both working on a driver together, maybe you're not in the same building or you work different hours, it's a great way for you to pass notes back and forth on that driver through here by sending the notes as a reminder to someone. I'll go ahead and set that reminder. So on the 13th at 2:30, I will get a reminder up here in my reminders box to call them, similar to what this one looks like. From there, we're going to go to Documents. Since this driver has filled out 2 IntelliApps, we've got 2 IntelliApp and PDFs. If you open these up. Oh, it didn't open up on my lower screen. I apologize, everyone. So if you see now, you see the driver's full application in PDF form. And if you're looking for releases, they usually start around page 9 or 10. This one starts at 8. That shows you all of the releases that we have, consumer reports, PSP disclosures, summary of rights, consumer report disclosures, Fair Credit Reporting Act, all that stuff. All of those are in the driver's documents section. Excuse me. You can also look at the categories of general, DQF. Well, let's say you wanted to add a document. Say a driver sent you a document, maybe their CDL card, maybe their med card, and you wanted to add it here. Go to category. Let's go to the general category. And you wanted to add maybe their state withholding form you do outside of Tenstreet. Maybe you wanted to do a background report outside of Tenstreet. You could upload those documents here. You could also go into DQF. So a lot of you guys use our system for driver qualification files. And the driver sent you a CDL copy. They sent you their certification of violations. Maybe you want to upload their road test here. If it's on your computer, you can drag and drop it into this section right here and then click Save Documents. You can also add next action dates for documents as well as expiration dates. So if you know that a driver's CDL is going to expire September 30th, you may want to set a next action date of September 1st to remind you that, hey, I've got 30 days to get this guy to renew his CDL. Great way for you to track that just internally through their documents. To the right of that, we have the Pulse document section. It may be important to note that you will only see the Pulse Documents tab if the driver has opted in to having Pulse and to receiving messages through Pulse. So if the driver didn't apply through Pulse or doesn't have driver Pulse, you will not see Pulse Documents at all under Documents. But say you wanted to request the driver's CDL, you could go to Select Pulse Document Type. I need your CDL to hire you. And then you can send that request off, and the driver sends it back to you. When they do, it comes back into their documents under Express System, I believe Exchange System Documents. Blake, is that correct? Or would that probably come under DQF?
Whenever the verification comes, or when the CDL comes back?
CDL request through Pulse would come back into DQF files, I would think, correct, under Documents?
If you're requesting it through Pulse, it's going to come back in and let you select where to put it. You'll click it, view it, and then it'll give you a drop down. I don't think it selects one for you by default. It just lets you pick which document type you want to put it into.
Gotcha. Just didn't want to give any false information on that one.
You're good.
All right. From Documents, we'll go to Process. It's good to check and see what processes are run. Currently, we've ran a signature request already, as you can see by this green backward arrow. We ran that request yesterday. We also ran background reports, as you can see through the processes. And then down here, we have the modification table. If anything has been changed up here in this big white box, the modification table down here will tell you. So you can see that I toggled with the individualized assessment earlier in the call. And outside of that, not a whole lot has been done to this driver's application. Say we wanted to add a process. There are multiple you can do this way. You can run background reports. You can schedule communications, which is one way to run confirmation IA, have dev forms, training forms sent to drivers for them to sign. You can also run background reports, MBRs, PSPs. All of that is done through Add Process. To the right of that is Exchange. This is where those of you who are familiar with our free accounts, the free Tenstreet accounts that allow you just to request one company at a time, that is this section right here is like the Exchange system on steroids, except better. You have all the options to make the requests right here through your dashboard. You don't have to do them one by one. You can send them all at once to request these items. We have the ability to show you potential missing employers the driver may have not entered on his or her application, and those are also tracked. Through your dashboard. So you'll see up here during Blake's Exchange call in 2 weeks how that process works. Because Exchange is its own hour-long call, we're going to kind of move past Exchange this week and just focus mostly on Xpress. From here, we'll go to tagging. And you can see all of the tags that we have for Tenstreet webinar. Some of these are date tags, some of these are open field tags, and some of these are yes, no. So you can see here the 3 different types. We got date tags, drop-down tags, and then field tags. You can also remove these tags this way. You'll notice the tags that you do add show up here in the big white box. You can set how many show up at once. If you're a company that likes to use all of your tags but doesn't like to show them all up here, you can configure that in your settings. If you click them, they move from right to left, and they go away as well. From here, I hit a little bit earlier on hiding people from work lists and what you do when you do that. So let's say I'm going to hide Tenstreet test from the dashboard. They're not going to show up in work list results anymore. They're no longer there. Tenstreet test is gone. So I would go to search. I'll move out any previous searches that we did. Go to work list hidden, yes, and then search. And voila, we have Tenstreet test back. Let's go ahead and unhide them from the work list. And there they are again. So it's a good way for you to just know where drivers are. Just because you move them from hidden from work list doesn't mean you'll never see them again, or if they reapplied, you won't be able to for application. Another cool thing that you can do in search is search by tags. So for example, if your company hires team drivers and you want a smoker to be paired with a smoker and non-smokers to go with non-smokers, you could run a tag search. Since this company has a smoker tag, I can run it by all of the drivers I have that are smokers. We don't have any in our test site. That makes sense. Any drivers that would have the yes tag for smoker would show up, and that way you can pair drivers that smoke with drivers that smoke, so they're not riding along with somebody who does not enjoy their smoke. To the right of that, we have work list, which we've covered. Reports. This is going to have a few more reports. It looks like because this is in the dev environment. Normally, this has about 10 to 15 standard reports that you have. Application listing, exchange pending requests. All of these are looks like reports for testing. Some of these driver by status with notes, job store performance. These are all things that you get. These are standard. Total applications by source by status. You can see how many apps you've gotten in the last week that were maybe for this recruiter. He's had 1 Intel app, 1 signature, means he's had 2 in the last week. So there are reports in here. If you don't see any reports under your reports tab, let us know. We'll have to take a look at that and see why that is. From here, we've got the tools section. Something super important to hit on, and since all of you are Tenstreet users and there's for Tenstreet Enterprise clients, you all have access to Driver Pulse and what you enter into Driver Pulse. So let's go to Pulse Control. From here, the very first option you have, Enable My Company in the Driver Pulse by Tenstreet mobile application. This means that you want drivers to be able to find you in Driver Pulse and send you those requests, and to be able to apply for your company. So once this is on, you are in Driver Pulse. Within this tab, you are able to update what you show in Pulse and how Pulse works for you. So you can share the recruiter, share the recruiter's profile image. If you don't want to share your processor, share status events, lets the driver know where they are within your application. So if you use statuses, as I'm going to show you down below, they get a little status bar that shows them how far along they are in the process. You can allow drivers to share documents or not. And then down here, you have send documents, and you can send the report when received. If you want a driver to receive a copy of their SID list, employment history, MVR, PSP, and forms when a report is received or viewed, you can do that. If not, you can turn it off here. I mentioned earlier about the status bar that drivers get when they're applying. Here's where you can set that up about how far along in the process they are and where it shows the status bar. So obviously new and reapply is much further down than hired, which is all the way 100%. So a good way for you guys to manipulate or show the driver what you want them to see within Pulse. Just below that, you have the company description. It says you are missing a company description. This is so important. We emphasize it on every single Xpress call. It's important to have one so that a driver has a good first start with you whenever they apply. So for any kind of company profile, you'd want to put maybe what kind of drivers you're hiring, where you're located, how long you've been in business, and maybe something unique about your company or anything that you would like a driver to know whenever a driver is about to apply, any little thing that they should know about your company. You'd put that in here, and they would see it in Pulse when they go to your company. From here, let's go back to Tools, and let's go into Active Jobs. And it's going to take us back to company information, because it's really important. It will show you that a couple different places where you put in your company information just so it shows up in Pulse. To the left of that, we have Active Jobs. We already have a couple active jobs selected. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when you go to add a new one. I cannot stress enough how important it is that you create an active job, even if you just have one that you've listed, so that it shows up in Pulse whenever a driver pulls up your company and says, oh, look, they have job openings. I can apply for that. You really, really should have at least one active job listing. So you can put the job name here. When we give you a little bit of tips for what to use, what kind of titles you should use, what not to enter in the descriptions, the job pay, display order of where it shows in your job list, the job requirements, and then any filters that you're looking for, so experience, driver type, that matrix that we talked about earlier that I showed you guys, that's where a lot of this information pulls from. You can ask for any endorsements, you can route the jobs to a certain work list, and you can also let us know what recruiters need to receive these applications, if any. If not, you can just move them back over, and they will round robin if they're all in here. So let's show you what our current active job looks like. So you've got our location set 3. It's currently in LA and in Tulsa, Beverly Hills. Look at this one. This one we've got Colorado and Alabama. So you can see how these work. From here, we'll go back to Tools. Billing is really important for those of you that Maybe you're a one-man shop and you handle everything. You'll want to go into billing and make sure that you have a primary billing contact email set up. This person receives the monthly invoices and also receives any emails if there's any changes made to your account that will affect your finances, or if anyone's added any funds to your card. If you run PSPs, this is where you also add your card to be able to add funds to your account. You have your statements and transactions here as well. If you have any transactions in the billing tab, they'll show up under transactions. And that's really about all I have for an exchange call today. Do we have any more questions?
We'll give you just a second to filter through, but it looks like probably not. Nope, doesn't look like that's the case. If you guys think of anything, though, like I said, go ahead and email us in at account.managers@tenstreet.com. Again, the direct phone line to the account management team is 918-998-9358. Any questions you guys have, any problems you run into, give us a call. I will be happy to help. Oh, wait, we do actually. Let's see. Is there a resource? Oh, yeah, actually there is. Is there a resource online that we can access videos?
There sure is. If you go up to Tools and then Tenstreet Documentation, over here you've got Xpress and Xpress Training. This is going to be essentially the same call I did today, as well as Exchange Training is up here. Can we go ahead and talk about the other videos, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, anything you want to talk about here. One thing that I always mention whenever we come in here, it's something that I didn't know that we could do, but we do have the capacity for it. Not a lot of clients use it. If you have your own internal resources that you provide to your own recruiters, so if you've got training documents, ways that you want your recruiters to reach out to potential applicants, any kind of onboarding material you guys have for your own recruiters, we can also add these to your own internal dashboard. They would show up here, you would have access to them. They wouldn't be on anyone else's dashboard, but if you have internal documents like this that you think would go here with this, we can add to them. But there's a lot more in here. Hayden, go right ahead and take it away.
Well, I was more talking about, I know I can just speak for our department. We have recently recorded some videos, some how-to videos of how to do things like how to resend a signature request, how to update info on an application, how to associate a release. We're recording all of those little mini how-to videos, maybe 2-3 minutes long, that will be available under Tenstreet Documentation coming soon, so that it can really help. If you just have one specific question, you can go up to the Tenstreet Documentation in the library. You can find it, and you'll have a quick video that shows you how to do that. Those are being recorded now by our team and should be uploaded sometime in the future.
Yep, that's exactly the case. We are finishing up several of those. I don't know exactly how many we have left to go, but there's a large list of exactly what Hayden said, how to do little things that you're specifically looking to do in the dashboard. And then, of course, as we get more stuff in, we'll be adding to that as well. So keep your ears to the ground. And like I said, the tenstreet.com/events webpage will have a list of all the things that we're doing. You can sign up for the webinars, or even if you can't come, we'll send you a recording. We'll send you a recording. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for your time, and you guys have a great day. Be safe out there.
Thanks, Blake. Oh.